Okay, welcome to this tutorial on simple formulas in Microsoft Excel 2010. I've got a few simple sums here and I want to describe to you how this actually works in Excel. Each cell in Excel has its own reference, has its own name, and you can always find the name out by coming up here into the top left hand name box and looking. That is the name of that cell, cell G8, and if I were to move, that's I11 and so on, G14 and so on and so forth. So every cell in Excel has a name. So when you start to calculate in Excel, you need to use cell references. The first thing we need to remember when we're calculating in Excel is that in order for Excel to recognize the fact that you're putting some sort of sum in there or calculation, you need to put the equal sign in. And as you put the equal sign in, that tells Excel there's some form of calculation going on here. Did you notice how at the top here, just here, things came live as soon as I put the equal sign in? Now when we write a sum at home, or we were taught at school, it was 2 plus 2 and then the equal sign and 4, but it's the equal sign that goes first in Excel. Everything else really is quite similar to a normal sum. So for example, instead of typing in the number 48, I'm going to put in cell B1 by clicking on it, and I've asked here to divide by 9 here, so the division symbol is /. 9 is cell C1. So our sum is the equal sign B1 divided by C1. So what about these operators? What about multiply, divide, add and subtract? Well, on your keyboard, if you're using a keyboard rather than a laptop, you will find the operator symbols on the right hand side of your keyboard next to the numbers, and you'll see a rather large plus key, a minus key above it, and then to the left of that you'll see an asterisk, which is actually the multiply sign. And by the process of elimination, the /, as we just said, is the divide sign. So if you've got an ordinary keyboard, you'll find all the operators on the right hand side of your keyboard. If you're using a laptop and it doesn't have a number pad, you will find all the symbols on your keyboard. For example, the plus symbol is just above the equal symbol, which means you have to hold down your shift key to put in a plus. The minus symbol is next to it, so one of them is a one of them is an underscore and the other one is a minus sign. The minus sign you don't need shift for. Multiply is above the 8, and what's the one that's left? /. Right down the bottom next to the shift key. Right hand shift key is a /. So obviously it's quite a bit easier if you've got a desktop with a keyboard. Okay, so we've done a sum. We've asked to divide 48 by 9, or in other words, cell B1 by cell C1. Now, to complete a sum, just as you use an equal sign in Excel to start a sum, to finish a sum, you use the enter. Use enter or return, whatever you prefer to call it. And that then gives you your answer. So, clicking back on that cell, you can see that the sum in that cell is B1 divided by C1, and the answer is 5.33 recurring. Let's do multiply now. Equals, same principle. Exactly the same principle there. The only thing that I'm going to change is the sign that I'm using. So this time it's multiply by 35, and then so it's B2 multiplied by C2. In other words, 8 multiplied by 35. I press enter. The answer is 280. The next one, getting quite used to this by now, I hope. 49 add 22, or B3 plus C3. And lastly, 54 minus 28, or B4 minus C4. Press enter. So you can see simple sums are pretty straightforward to do in Excel, so even simple budgets and adding things up and taking things away are quite useful. But what I want to do now is just to give you a note of warning, really, that if I ask you to add these two cells together, 2 plus 2 equals 4, multiply by 5, that would give us 20. So let's just see what Excel does with this. So equals 2 plus 2 multiplied by 5. So up here you'll see it's A7 plus B7 multiplied by C7. And we're expecting the answer to be 20, but in fact Excel works that out to being the answer 12. Why is this? It's because Excel works to the rules of what are known as BODMAS or BIDMAS. And this is because Excel is programmed to work out a certain way according to the laws of algebra, which is the anagram BIDMAS, or some may know it as BODMAS. And Excel is programmed to work out brackets first. Let's just skip back to this sum. In the next instance, it will work anything to the power of, and then it'll move on to, if it doesn't find any of those, the first thing it does, it will be to divide. The next thing it will do is find the multiplications and perform those, and then the additions, however many there are in a cell, and then subtractions. So hopefully you can see that by going back to this answer 12 here, what Excel has done is taken the 2 and the 5, and because it multiplies before it adds, it's actually multiplied those two together to get 10, and then added the number 2 to get 12. And it's important, if you're using Excel for working things out, that you understand this principle, because if you wanted it to read 20 as you think it should do, then you need to put brackets around this part here that of the sum that you want it to work out first. So this one here, directly after the equals sign, directly after the equals sign, you put brackets around that part of the sum. So you're still telling Excel that there's a sum going here, but you want to perform a calculation on these two cells first. And then what you find when you press enter is you get the answer 20. Okay, so it's very much a case of knowing that Excel will calculate according to the rules of BIDMAS. So that's basic operators. What I'd like to do now is to go on to formulas. And the reason for Excel in the first instance, when it was created, if you like, was as a calculation tool. And many people now, they use Excel for keeping data. Okay, so they use it as databases. But originally it was designed around accountancy and numerical calculations and statistical calculations and that sort of thing. And because it was for such a purpose, they created these things called functions, which made life a lot easier for simple calculations and for more complex calculations. For example, if I asked you to add up column B here, you would see that you would probably have to start with the equal sign here, and then you'd have to click on each cell separated by a plus symbol, according to what I've just shown you. But Excel recognised that addition is one of the common things that people are going to want to do in Excel, so they've created a function for it, and this function is called AutoSum. And you'll find the AutoSum on the home ribbon at the far right end here, where my cursor is now. And as long as you have the cell selected where you want the answer, so this is really important, tell Excel, if you like, where you want the answer, and you click on AutoSum, what it will do is it will automatically suggest a range of cells that it thinks you want to add up. And at the moment it's got that calculation right, so it's asking, looking up here, it's cell B2 to cell B37, and that's exactly what I want to total up. And indeed you can see now the total of those cells is 197,996.74. The other thing that Excel helps with is if you have a sum in one cell and you want to carry that cell over, that calculation over to other cells, you can use something called the fill handle, which is hovering over the bottom right hand corner of a cell or a selection of cells until your cursor turns this black crosshair, which is the fill handle. So there's the white cross and then the black fill handle, and that enables you to copy the sum across, if you like. So for example, this is sum B2 to B37, but in this cell it's C2 to C37, and in this cell D, and so on and so forth. So that's a really useful way of adding extra columns up. Let's have a look now at one or two of the more common functions, other functions apart from AutoSum. There's one called average, which again you'll find here because it's a very common one, under the small arrow to the right of the AutoSum symbol, and here it is, average. Watch this time the range of cells that Excel chooses. Now I only want this selection to go to cell 37, and it's included my total of 197,996. All I have to do is to correct it by simply selecting the range of cells I want it to add up. So I'm holding on my left cursor here and just letting go. So now you can see that the selection is actually the average of cells B2 to B37. So even though Excel suggests a range of cells to work on, be absolutely sure that it's selected the right range. So here's our function, the average function. Let's press enter to see how it works it out. And the average of those cells is 5,499 and 91p. As I said last time, the other way of working out average is to actually add each cell up individually, of course, and then divide by the number of cells, which is 35, and you would get that answer. But the function obviously saves a great deal of time in being able to do that automatically. Same with minimum. It's another common one. So what this one is going to do is pick out the very smallest figure in the range. Again, it's selected the wrong range. I'm just going to correct it by dragging it there. It doesn't matter if you sort of get it wrong, as long as you don't let go of your left mouse until you've selected the right range. Just check B2 to B37, and there's the minimum. And then what we do, copy that across as I've done before, and that's picked out the smallest number in that range, the minimum number. And no surprises that maximum is going to pick out the biggest one. So let's have a look again, correct it. And B2 to B37, press enter to finish. And that's picked out the largest one in that column. And when I copy it over using the fill handle, you can see that it picks out the largest one in columns C, D, E and F as well. Now count is a function that counts the number of cells with a number in it. And underneath it is count A, and I'll show you the difference in just a moment. So here's count numbers. Again, you need to correct the selection that Excel chooses, and press enter to finish the sum. And you can see that 36 cells have a number in. I said 35 earlier, didn't I? 36 cells have a number in. Let's use something called count A. So count counts the amount of numbers you have in a cell, but it won't count blanks, and it won't count text. So if I change one of these cells to text, you can see your count goes down to 35. Okay, but count A will count everything. It'll count text and numbers, anything with anything in. So let's go to, this time I'm going to have to go and find this function because it doesn't appear here where we got our other ones from. So we're going to have to go to more functions. You can get to more functions this way. You can get to functions over here by clicking on insert function. You can even go to formulas and insert function from there. But we're going to use this one here, which is more functions. I happen to have count A down here, but let's just show you how to find count A. Make sure that you've got all selected, and if you know what your function is called, you can just press the first letter C, and it takes you down to the C's. And then you go to count. There's count, count A, count blank, count if. So we're going to use count A. Click OK. Now this is something I haven't shown you before. This is a function arguments box, and what this is it allows you to make up, if you like, your function. So the value is this range here. Okay, so we're saying B2 to B37 as we have done previously. If we wanted to, we could choose another area, value 2, but in this instance we only want one, so I'm going to click OK there, and you can see again, as you'd expect, it has 36. It's counted 36 cells. Again, I'm just going to change this and put some text in, and what you'll find now when I press enter is that down here count has gone down to 35 as it did previously, but count A has stayed on 36. Now there are other counts, count blank, which will obviously count the amount of blank cells, etc, etc. So it's just giving you an idea or a flavour of the fact that you can count cells, you can count blank cells, you can count text, etc, etc. And indeed, if you wanted to know how many cells have got text in, you could take a count calculation away from a count A calculation. It would give you how many cells have got text in. What I'm going to do now is look at, we've got the maximum here and we've got the minimum, but what if I wanted the second largest or the third largest? I can use another function for this, and this is called, believe it or not, large. I'm just using a shortcut here, but okay, so what I've used is a shortcut there. Let me show you that shortcut so you know. If I know what the function is, I start to type the function like this, open brackets, and then it recognises, can you see how that's appeared just down here? It's recognised what it is that I'm doing. I can either click on that or I can press Ctrl A, which brings this function arguments box up. So there's our function arguments. The array is the same. That's the array. Now what I want is I want the actual second largest this time. So I'm going to put in there 2. Okay, let's go back down and press OK. And now you can see the second largest number. The largest was 9,967, and the next one down is 9,729 and 59. So if you're working out first, second and third place, you could use these functions. Just change the number 2 up here to the number 3 to get the third largest, and so on. So the principle's the same with this one. It's small, open brackets, Control A. The array is still the same, still the same set of cells we're using, B2 to B37, and we want the second smallest this time. Second smallest, yeah. So you can see now the second smallest was 369.71, and the second smallest was 518.99. Let me show you another count here. So this is count if. As I said, I know this function. Let's do it the other way. Let's just go up to here and find count if. We go to more functions, and in here I can type count if I know what it is, and go or enter, and it goes to the beginning of the count. So here's count if, this one here, click OK, opens the function arguments box. Our range obviously is all the way up here, but let's say now that I needed to sum only if they are greater than £5,000. Notice I don't put the pound symbol in here, just put the number. So we're asking of the range only to count how many there are greater than £5,000. Let's have a look. So there are 22 of those 36 cells that have a greater value than 5,000. So let's suppose now that we wanted to sum those. In other words, we wanted to add those up. That same cell range, anything greater than 5,000, we wanted to add it up. There's some if there, but I'm going to go down to all and show you again. So this time I'm going to press S, takes you down to the bottom of sum, top of the S's, sorry, so there's sum if. Sum ifs as well is more than one argument, but we'll stick with sum if at the moment. So that's the one that I want. So our range is here, again, B2 to B37. And the criteria, again, greater than 5,000. Now our sum range is the same, and in a minute I'm going to show you why that is. But okay, so our range is B2 to B37, and our sum range is the same. So it's now telling us the sum of those 22 cells is 167,628.69. Okay, and don't forget, you can use your fill handle not to copy across one, but many cell contents like that. I'm going to show you why SUMIF has 2 columns. This time I'm going to select the cell where I want the answer. I'm going to go to SUMIF. SUMIF, where are we? So my range is actually here, because what I want to do is I want to add up Pete's contribution only. So my criteria here, I'm looking for Pete. Okay, and my sum range is actually this range here. This is the range that I want to sum or add up. So my range is actually working on this column here, column A. My criteria is Pete, and my sum range is here. So I'm wanting it to add Pete's totals up. And you can see that Pete's totals there are 17,427. Now, let's just check that and see if it's right. Those 2 cells added together, if you look down at the bottom here, you can see he's giving us a count, and it says the sum total of those 2 cells is 17,427 and 9. And that's what total that we've got. So we know that our sum has actually worked. So there are hundreds of different functions in Excel, and I've just given you a flavour of 1 or 2 here, but you can see if there are sort of over 200 functions, just how powerful Excel can be for calculating in. And as I say, I've just shown you 1 or 2 today. So again, if there's anything that you don't understand about what I've spoken about today, or you want to just get in touch, please do, and I can clarify anything that I've recorded here today. Okay, so this is Matthew Brown. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.